Now, your main man has heard your comments, your questions, your desire for more wrestling-based content on this channel. That's right, and I am here to give you what you want. Now, what we're going to be doing today is a creative exercise, engaging that old wrestling mind muscle, if you will, brother. And what we're going to be talking about, and you've heard this line a million times if you follow wrestling, haven't you? Creative has nothing for you. That's right, you are now head of WWE Creative. You get the job today. You want to bring some new talent in. You need to be cautious of the budget. Vince McMahon's not going to be too happy if you bring in nothing but guys that are costing him a tremendous amount of money. So that needs to be a factor in the overall considerations. Now, feel free to make video responses. Feel free to leave multiple lines of posts, because you might not be able to get through this in 500 characters. Who would you keep? Who would you cut? Hell, feel free to talk about who you'd bring in. But you want to bring people in. You got to make it new. You got to make it fresh. You got to put your stamp on it. And remember, you're building towards a crescendo. You want to have a large number of changes. You want to put your stamp on it. You want to make the show different, unique, and create the elements in a way where you can really get it cooking, make it hot, and start drawing money. So what I've done here is I pulled up WWE.com, and I'm just going to go through the talent. I'm going to tell you, keep them or cut them. AJ Lee, I keep her. I think she has a great screen presence. She comes off much better than a lot of the divas do. Aksana, I think I'm going to keep her, but I mean, she's on a bubble. At any moment she could go. Alberto Del Rio, absolutely keep him. I dialed back on his gimmick a little bit. Like, I thought some of the things they're doing with his current gimmick are not really the way I'd want to use him as a babyface. But I think he's probably one of the better talents of to come along in that company in a long time. He has a lot of potential for the future. Alex Riley, I'd probably cut him. He's an underneath guy. You could just bring some new underneath guys in there. I don't see a huge upside for him. Alicia Fox, cut. Claudio Castagnolo, or what is it, Antonio Cesaro, you have to keep him. Well, wouldn't you keep him? Big E Langston, I'd keep him, but I'd take the D'Lo Brown starter package. That old Mark Henry gear he has on. That his outfit is horrible. I don't know who thought it would be a good idea to throw some old Kama Mustafa Nation of Domination tights on that man. But they look horrible, because Farouk has called and he wanted his clothes back. And he said, damn! So, Big E Langston needs to be repackaged. And I don't know why they named him after a starting pitcher for the Mariners, because I'm damn sure Langston ain't his real last name. So, yeah, he needs some repackaging. But a guy of that size, of that power, you got to keep him around. The Big Show gets cut. The Big Show has been, since he came, he's one of the few guys that WCW booked better than WWE consistently. The WWE has just done horrible things with him. They make him essentially, he's really a mid-carder is what he is. The fact that they have so many shows kind of gives him the illusory effect of being a main eventer, but the Big Show has to be a main eventer to be valid. He can't come out there and destroy a bunch of nobodies and then just get beat and get beat and get beat and get beat and get beat. He has to be an Andre the Giant. So, you know, if somebody even looks like they're going to beat him, it's an enormous deal. If he loses one match, it should be 5 years till he loses another one, not 5 minutes. They've just destroyed him. I think he has lots of good tools, but he needs to go somewhere else. He is going to get cut. Booker T, cut. I never thought he was very good on the stick, so he's gone. Brodus Clay, I think he's entertaining. His gimmick has a shelf life, though. I don't know if you have something you change him into after that. I think his gimmick might run for another year before it's so stale that it absolutely has to go. And he's the kind of guy you need to take off TV. He's the kind of guy that needs to go somewhere else before he comes back. That's the big problem with not having a WCW. Brodus Clay needs to go to another company for 3 years before he comes back. Camacho, probably cut him. Cameron, obviously she's part of the Brodus Clay package, so again, you kind of keep the same deal there. One of them, Cameron or Naomi, you might be able to spin off and do something with by themselves. Christian, I'd keep, but probably for only for a short period of time. I don't think he's ever had the ability to really break through. He did it to a degree in TNA. He's never done it in WWE. part of that's they haven't put the vehicle behind him, but he's been there for so long that it would be kind of hard to keep that up. CM Punk I keep, but I do not see him as the guy that carries the company. Not at all. He's, going down substantially further in the lineup from what I would have if I am booking or head of creative or releasing talent or so forth. Cody Rhodes, cut. He good little baby. They're talking about the grandson of a plumber, if you will, but talking about charisma must have come from that boy mama's side because he is not very good. I don't know what it is. Goldust was amazingly talented. Dusty Rhodes, one of the all-time best. Cody Rhodes, if his name wasn't Cody Rhodes, he would be getting squashed in dark matches. I just don't see any bit of money in him. Kurt Hawkins, cut. Damian Sandow, giant keep. I build a program, push him within probably a year and a half to be the WWE champion. He's probably the best talent I've seen come along in a decade. He's incredibly good, and the ability this guy has is unbelievable. He could have wrestled in any era, could have been a main event player in any era. His style harkens back to that excellent style of the 80s, and I really enjoy Damian Sandow. He can do that sort of a feminine genius gimmick, but at the same time have that hard edge to him. You can see a lot of potential for him. Daniel Bryan, yes. You have to keep Daniel Bryan. He and Kane almost make the show. They're extremely talented. Darren Young I keep, but only for a little while. I turned Titus O'Neil on him, or him on Titus O'Neil, however, and that's going to lead to him getting axed. I see no money in Darren Young. Titus O'Neil, on the other hand, we'll get to when it's his turn. David Otunga, yeah, but I don't see him. I don't see too much to him. I'd keep Dean Ambrose. I think he might be the standout from the Shield, but I think the Shield angle is good, so I'd keep all of them at the moment, and I'd like to see more of them before I made any definitive decisions. Dolph Ziggler, I'm really on the fence with. The fact that Dolph Ziggler's in high-profile feuds is a good reflective of the state of the WWE status in that position. I was certainly trying to correct. He is definitely not a big money player at all, and you could slap. You get Drew McIntyre beside him. You could just easily slide Drew McIntyre in the Dolph Ziggler spot. There's just, in my mind, Dolph Ziggler's not horrible, but he's not special. He's definitely not a top caliber guy. I can go through listing guys who never held world titles that are 1,000 times better than him. Now, Drew McIntyre, you immediately cut him. He's been there too long. There's no importance. It has The Rock on here, but he's not a real talent. He's just an in-and-out guy. So, of course, you keep The Rock. You'd be a blithering idiot not to. He's going to draw huge money for you. He's going to bring old fans back, which helps the product tremendously. Epico I'd keep, but only if I could somehow convince Carlito to come back. I think you could do big money if you bring Carlito back as a guy that you push up towards the world title, and then you have Primo and Epico under him as a tag team, as a faction. And anyway, I have a whole angle. I'm not going to go into that right now, but I definitely think they can be useful there. Otherwise, Primo and Epico definitely aren't standout stars like Carlito is, so if I couldn't get that, I'd probably cut both of them. Evan Bourne, I guess I'd keep him, but he's so far from my style of talent. A guy that weighs 75 pounds, I don't see any real place for in wrestling. But I think he might have enough of a draw into what the product currently is. But I would be moving away from guys like that. So he'd be there, but not for too long. Ezekiel Jackson definitely would be there. Definitely would be featured more. He's a tremendous powerhouse. I think he needs to be in a tag team. I believe I'd either tag him and Big E Langston or him and Mark Henry up. I just think, look at those. Who the hell would believe you could beat both those guys? Any two of them, or maybe make all three of them a faction. Free Birds rules. Who could believe they would get beat? So that's a hell of a faction. You could really work them up there. Yeah, you could say, well, their wrestling skills aren't too good. They're not the best talents. Although Mark Henry is a fairly good talent, wrestling wise, very very underrated. But I see Ezekiel Jackson really being someone who could be used with the size, the power, with the look he has. Just look at that guy. He's a guy you don't want to run into an alley, and that's exactly who you want to have in a ring representing you in a company. That is the guy you want there. He's fearsome looking. The Great Khali, is almost to the Big Show position. They've misbooked him so horrendously. I know people go, oh, Carly can't work. It doesn't matter. Andre the Giant couldn't work. His matches are horrible. But he drew tremendous money. I mean, a Big Show match is 1,000 times better than Andre the Giant match. And a Great Khali match is pretty close. But, he does a few things well. The big shot, and he moves in the ring different. He's credible. If you just had him destroy people, I think you could get a run out of him. But I think he's limited. I think you have him really, really destroying people and get a good run out of him. And, maybe you circle him out. Again, one of the big problems about not having territories, because he's the kind of guy that you have a run for like a year, you circle him to someone else, and he bing, bang, booms around and eventually comes back. Heath Slater, I would keep. Now, we said we dropped Drew McIntyre, but we keep Heath Slater. I think he has some talent. He seems to have a good attitude. And I enjoy him. Hornswoggle I'd keep, but I would also be bringing back Finlay. I don't care what he looks like. Finlay is probably the best psychology of anyone that's not named Terry Funk that's alive today. He's phenomenal. I'd probably bring Regal back and make him and Finlay a tag team and actually do something with them, despite the fact that they're old and not in good shape. The psychology they have is amazing, and guys like that you need on your roster to teach. Because, good Lord, some of these people need to learn some stuff there. It's rough. Hunico, I'd probably drop him too. He hasn't stood out to me at all. Jack Swagger, I see possible future Jack Swagger, but I just don't see present in him. I think he needs to go. I think I'd probably release him, let him go to TNA or something, and maybe bring him back in 2 or 3 years. He needs more seasoning. In the past, WWF would not have had a guy like Jack Swagger there. He would have been kicking around in the lower levels, eventually gotten good enough. I think one day there might be money in him, but that day might be a good number of years from now. Jerry the King Lawler has been there forever. I'd release him and get a new announcer. I think he can't really wrestle anymore, and I think having an announcer out there that actually can wrestle periodically is great. I think that's a huge plus. So that's something I'd go for. The Usos, I don't know how they found 2 Samoans that are that small. These guys combined weigh less than any Samoan should on their own. It's ridiculous. I love seeing a Samoan tag team. Ming, one of my all-time favorites. Their dad Rikishi was great. So many great Samoans. But, I mean, these guys aren't them. They're tiny. They're not credible. Get rid of them. Jinder Mahal, his current gimmick is definitely not where he needs to be. I think there's big money in him, particularly with a giant exploding market for pro wrestling in India. You got to have Jinder Mahal. Particularly, like I said, eventually looking to cycle Khali out. But Jinder Mahal is a guy that I think can stay there and be a high-end mid-carder, like an Intercontinental champion level guy. I don't know if he ever makes a world champion level or not. Maybe he does. Maybe he gets better, but I don't see it right now. I do see some money in him. And again, you're not just looking at guys you can make the world champion. WWE kind of zones in on that too much. You got to have things going on at all levels to attract different people, and that's part of the reason I said keep some guys like Evan Bourne, even though maybe not for too long. John Cena. John Cena really needs to go somewhere else, but at the same time, there's still some money in him. He does seem to have some popularity. He's a weird thing. He's an unintentional tweener, sort of. I guess he's a face, but a lot of people don't like him. I don't dislike John Cena, but is he a WWE champion level guy? No, clearly not. His ring work is subpar. His mic work is well above average, but it doesn't grip you at the same time. He's not one of the greats on the mic. So he has a great build, and from what a lot of female friends of mine have told me, he's a very good-looking guy, and I think that's why the females gravitate towards him. He has a lot of bright, colorful stuff, and the kids seem to gravitate towards him. But I don't see that in him. I don't even know who Johnny Curtis is. I'm not going to try to front, so I don't know. Josh Matthews, I get rid of him. I think he sucks. I think he's always sucked, and I think that's politics right there. He's slid in and played the politics and worked up. JTG, I think he's great, but I mean he should be called JTJ because he is a jobber right now. But I see more in him than a jobber. I think he could be real talented if given the right kind of gimmick. In fact, that group we just talked about with like Mark Henry and Ezekiel Jackson, you might put JTG with him like as a manager. I don't know. JTG's a bit small, but he's be a good mouthpiece. And Mark Henry, only so-so, and Ezekiel Jackson probably not much of a speaker at all. Justin Gabriel, again on the bubble. Justin Roberts, gone immediately. He sucks. Caitlyn, gone. I don't know what the hell they're pushing her for. Kane, you got to keep. He's entertaining. I would like to have had him as a monster better, but there's no way to make Kane a monster. I mean, you could have at one point, obviously, but not now. He's done too many goofy stuff. You can't have that be a monster. I don't know if Kofi Kingston is from Jamaica or from Ghana, West Africa. He seems to have come from both of those places. All I know is he's gone. Kofi Kingston's cut. Doesn't look like a wrestler. He looks like a guy that sits in the front row. Layla, keep her. Lillian Garcia, she gets cut too. Just get some new people in those angles. They used to cycle new people in all the time in the 80s. Now, that's one of the big problems with WWE. It's too stagnant. Mark Henry, you got to keep Mark Henry. And you got to give him the full Nelson for a finish. I've said that for years. Why does this guy not doing the full Nelson? That's an immediate submission. And never have anyone kick out of it. And it's not like the Chris Masters or, anyone can probably kick out of that. But that's no way. But Mark Henry, God, you know you're not kicking out. That's a submission. If that man put a full Nelson on you for real, you wouldn't submit. You just die. You just break all the vertebrae in your neck. Mason Ryan, we're going to keep him. Matt Striker, gone. Oh, he's another one that sucks. Michael Cole, keeping and kind of building the announcing around him. I didn't see JBL on the list. He gets cut too. He's horrible as an announcer. As a wrestler, he's good, but not as an announcer. I don't want to hear that for 2 hours. Michael McGillicuddy, not remembering who that is. I don't know. The Miz, I keep him, but again, putting him in the main event is just silly. He's more like a Santino Morello level of guy. To say, he's like a B. Brian Blair level of individual. So you keep him down there. Mr. McMahon, you got to keep, but don't ever let Stephanie on TV again. Obviously, Mr. McMahon will be kept. Naomi, again, the same thing. I think, was it Cameron? I think Cameron of the two is probably the one that I might look to do something with in the future. Naomi. Natalia, I guess you keep her there. Do something with her. Paul Heyman, a great manager. They need one or two more managers. Obviously, they're all very unlikely to get Jim Cornette back there, but God, if you could have the two of them on opposite sides, that'd be something, wouldn't it? A Heyman Cornette rivalry with stables, not just Heyman with CM Punk, but give him a whole stable, give him a dangerous alliance. Hell, bring that gimmick back. That'd be a damn good thing, and you could make that a major player, the dangerous alliance. You could, if somehow you get Jim Cornette back, and I don't think that's happening, but somehow you could, right? After all, Johnny Ace has been fired, and that's going to go a long way, at least to helping Corny to come back. You could give Corny a stable, and you can say, okay, obviously he's a bit limited at this point, not going to probably do any matches or take any bumps, but the animosity there between him and Heyman, that could really translate over. Let him do a little work shooting, and I think you'd draw huge money with a Cornette faction and a Paul Heyman faction. Maybe even bring someone else in on the tail end of that with a faction as well, and kind of have it going three ways, and not necessarily making faces heels. Let the fans pick who they want. Primo, kind of covered with Epico. Ron Truth, I cut him from being able to wrestle at all. I hate Ron Truth. I've always hated watching him wrestle. I hate watching him wrestle. I just hate it. Everything I like on wrestling, he goes the wrong way on everything. Like when I see him do a promo, I'm like, oh, is he going to get there? No. Oh God, it was horrible. And when I see him do moves, nothing he does looks realistic to me. I can do a whole video on Ron Truth, but I can't stand him. He's my bottom guy on the whole WWE roster. Randy Orton, I guess I keep because a lot of people like him. I'm going to tell you, to be honest with you, I fast forward the Randy Orton matches. I just don't find him enjoyable. Same thing with Rey Mysterio Jr. I guess you got to keep him because he sells merchandise, and he seems to be hurt so much that he naturally makes himself fresh again. Ricardo Rodriguez, I'd probably actually work him towards maybe being a wrestler. I know he can wrestle and has been a wrestler before, but in WWE he hadn't had that. I think he could be a real talent. I think he could really, really do good. Roman Reigns, he looks like he might have potential, but he looks really, really, really green to me. Rosa Mendez, Kind of same thing with Primo and Epico. I don't know if I should spin her off anywhere else if I get rid of them. Ryback, I definitely keep. Ryback's big problem is he looks a tiny bit goofy. Like, I mean, he's got a tremendous body, almost reminiscent of the Big Bad Booty Daddy, but those ears, you know, he's doing a law. Santino Marella, I'll probably let run for another year and a half, but he's a comedy character, and he's the kind of guy that, again, needs a circle. He could be really talented in an area like that, but he needs a circle. Seth Rollins, the first time I saw him, I thought he was Alex Shelley on steroids. I'll probably keep him, but again, just to see what they can do. Keep him there for a little. I don't know who Scott Stanford is, but I know he wouldn't be working for Stanford, Connecticut, because he'd be gone. Sheamus, he's another guy I fast forward through. I don't like Sheamus. And I'm Irish, but Irish American at least. But I just don't like him. But I guess I keep him there. They've done a lot with him. I don't know. I'm on the bubble with Sheamus. Sin Cara, I cut him. Tamina Snuka, I keep her. I think she's pretty good female wrestler. Ted DiBiase, I didn't even know he was still there, but he must be hurt. I probably cut him. He's a guy that he needs a couple more years. He may have it one day, but he needs a couple more years. Tensai, much like the WWE is going to do, he's going to get cut. You can watch Tensai matches now. They brought him in to have him beat John Cena, and now he gets squashed by everybody. I don't know how anyone that worked in Japan could come back and work so light in America. His style looks horrible. His matches are horrible. I wouldn't cut him immediately. I mean, they're doing the right thing. You build him up, you can still get probably a good 6-7 months of jobs out of him. And a guy that size, if people still might buy into him winning a match, you know, it's gonna help you. And of course, in that 7 months, you probably want to give him 1 or 2 matches here or there, just so you know it doesn't look completely. But those matches would be against Raw and True Killing before he's on his way out. Tensai's got to go. He's horrible. Teddy Long is immediate cut. You do not see Teddy Long again. He's gone. His gimmick was done years ago. I have no idea why he's still there, and there's no reason for him to still be there. He was done years ago, and I don't think he has anything. I don't even think you can put him as a manager anymore. He just needs to go. Titus O'Neil. In fact, I might break Titus O'Neil off and then put him with that big black group I was talking about with Mark Henry, with Ezekiel Jackson, with Big E Langston. You put him there, you make a new Nation of Domination kind of deal. Maybe make JTG like the manager. And I think you have a group that you're running, and Titus O'Neil is a guy I'm building towards being a main event star. I think Titus O'Neil here and then Damian Sandow here. I think those are your 2 best guys to build. Those who I would build a company around, Titus O'Neil, and again we talked about like a dangerous alliance and maybe even getting another manager involved. And obviously I like Jim Cornette, but maybe you get Jim Mitchell with like a demonic sort of faction of new guys you bring in. I remember we've cut a lot of people, so we can bring new people in. You'd have a hell of a deal right there. They would be able to kind of have this big faction war. Now it's something that the WWE hasn't done in a long time. Nice big groups of factions and make it the main event angle. You know, the faction. Make Titus O'Neil going for the belt, and then maybe you keep CM Punk in the Dangerous Alliance, and he's going for the belt, and maybe you get Damian Sandow over here in this other part, and he's going for the belt. You know. And then maybe even you have James Mitchell's come in and he has a demonic type faction. You know, it could be interesting. So you have Triple H. I say the more you keep Triple H off camera, the better. I like it. He's one of the most overpushed guys in the history of wrestling. He was a bona fide mid-carder who we obviously all know how he got to push. But the fact he's not on TV makes me happy because I don't want to listen to 70 minutes of Triple H talking. Oh, God, he's horrible. Tony Chimmel, I didn't even know you were still working there. I guess he's a pretty good ring announcer. I might keep him a little bit. Tyson Kidd, I think you're talking about all these new factions, right? You kind of repackage him. I think he's he's decent enough size for one of the really little flipper guys, and I think he has some pretty good psychology. So we keep him, but we repackage him. They're just doing nothing with him. Obviously, you don't fire the Undertaker. I mean, he's on his way out anyway. He probably only has a few matches left in him. I mean, a few, like maybe under 10 left in him for his whole career. Vicky Guerrero, I think I'd go ahead and get rid of her. Although I think I think you might bring her back again. She's someone you could push off to another territory if they had him still. That's how they used to keep things fresh. And why you have the problem you have now? It's so stagnant. I think she has another run in her, unlike Teddy Long, who I think is completely done. But Vicky Guerrero's been there too long. You got to get rid of her. Wade Barrett, I definitely see you could do something with him. Maybe, like I said, we bring Regal actually to wrestle. Maybe you have him and Regal doing a deal together, either with each other or against each other. But I think Wade Barrett is definitely another one of these guys you can build around for the company. William Regal, I always said, you're putting him in the ring, we're giving him more time. I don't care if he's old, I don't care if he's sloppy, I don't care if he needs to wear a damn shirt in the ring. William Regal is a guy that I think has, and put him with Fit Finlay. And you just have the younger guys working with him because they can make people look way better than they are. Yoshi Tatsu, I mean, I don't know. If you want a guy that's a Japanese wrestler, just get a different one, I think, because he's been there for a while, and I don't see any reason to keep him there. You know, so anybody can get squashed. And Zack Ryder, I definitely keep Zack Ryder. I think Zack Ryder, while his gimmick is very silly, I think he does it great, and I think that could translate on him to being able to do something else great. I actually see a big upside in Zack Ryder, so he definitely gets kept as well.